Have you ever considered that the biggest enemy to your success is the voice inside your own head? Sounds a bit harsh, doesn't it? But here's the thing, most of us talk to ourselves in ways we'd never dream of speaking to someone we care about. We tell ourselves things like, "You're not good enough, you always fail," or "You'll never get what you want." Now, here's where it gets even more controversial. What if I told you that the way you talk to yourself is actually programming your mind to fail? For 5 days, I challenge you to try something radically different. Talk to yourself like you are your own coach, your best friend, your biggest fan. Because what if that critical voice in your head isn't the truth? What if you've been lying to yourself this entire time, sabotaging your own progress with every negative word? In just 5 days of changing this self-talk, you could see a transformation so profound, it'll leave you wondering why you didn't start sooner. Sounds like an overstatement, right? But here's the thing, it's not. Science backs it up. The words we speak to ourselves shape our identity, and our identity shapes our actions. So, if you want to make a change, the fastest way is to change the way you talk to yourself. And it can happen quicker than you think. The truth is, your mind is listening. Your subconscious is always absorbing, processing, and using the language you feed it. So, why would you continue feeding it with negativity? The biggest shock comes when you realize that most of your limitations are self-imposed, built on years of negative self-talk. But guess what? In just 5 days of flipping that inner conversation, you can begin to tear down those walls. It might sound too simple to be true, but sometimes the most effective solutions are the ones right under our noses. You don't need fancy tools, expensive courses, or weeks of therapy to start seeing a shift. All you need to do is talk to yourself differently, consistently, for 5 days. The results? You'll start noticing how your energy shifts, your mood lifts, and most importantly, how you approach challenges will completely change. Now, I know some of you are thinking, how can just 5 days make a difference? But let's flip that. What if in 5 days, you feel more confident, more capable, and more in control of your life than ever before? Isn't it worth trying? You are more powerful than you've been led to believe. Think about that for a second. Really let it sink in. For years, you've been told, directly or indirectly, that your potential is limited, that you're not smart enough, not talented enough, not deserving enough. But here's the truth, that belief system is a lie. For generations, society has pushed this narrative that success is only for the few, for the elite. But what if I told you that you hold the keys to your own success, right now, within you? The secret lies in one simple shift, changing how you talk to yourself. This isn't some abstract idea, it's the foundation of self-belief. Your words shape your world, and once you harness that power, the possibilities are limitless. Here's the thing, your brain is wired to believe whatever you tell it. And for far too long, you've been reinforcing the wrong ideas. You've been saying things like, "I can't," or "I'm not enough." And your brain, it believes you. It's been doing exactly what you've asked of it, limiting you. But the moment you start talking to yourself differently, that's when things change. That's when your mind starts to rewire itself. Self-belief isn't just about positive thinking, it's about aligning your self-talk with the person you're destined to become. When you speak to yourself as if you're already capable, already successful, your brain starts looking for evidence to support that. It's called confirmation bias, and you've been using it against yourself for years. But here's the good news, you can flip that switch. For 5 days, I want you to commit to speaking to yourself with conviction, with power, with unwavering belief in your abilities. Every time you catch yourself saying something negative, stop. Reframe it. Replace it with something that aligns with the future you want to create. For example, instead of saying, "I can't do this," say, "I am capable of figuring this out." Instead of, "I'm not good enough," say, "I am improving every single day." This isn't about fake positivity or ignoring challenges. It's about training your brain to focus on possibilities instead of limitations. It's about creating a mindset where your default reaction to challenges is, "I can handle this," instead of, "I'm going to fail." And let me tell you, when you start talking to yourself like this, your confidence will soar. The world might try to convince you that success is reserved for a select few, but that's not your truth. Your truth is that you're capable of more than you know, and it all starts with the way you communicate with yourself. Don't underestimate the power of this change. In 5 days, you could begin to break free from years of limiting beliefs. you could start to feel that shift in your energy, your motivation, and your determination. This isn't some distant dream. This is your reality, waiting for you to step into it. But it all starts with one thing: believing in yourself enough to change the way you talk to yourself. Because when you do, the world begins to change around you. So ask yourself this: what's more powerful than unlocking the potential that's already within you? It's been there all along, just waiting for you to take control. 5 days of intentional, positive self-talk could be the difference between staying stuck and finally moving forward. Here's something that might surprise you: positive thinking isn't enough to change your life. Wait, what? We've all been bombarded with the idea that if we just think positively, everything will magically improve. But here's the shocking truth: positive thinking, on its own, doesn't work. In fact, for some people, it can even backfire. Why? Because positive thinking without action is just wishful thinking. It's like putting a fresh coat of paint on a crumbling wall. Sure, it looks good for a while, but deep down, the structure is still weak. Here's what most people don't realize: it's not the positivity that changes you, it's the conversation you're having with yourself that drives real change. And that's where most of us go wrong. Think about it: how many times have you tried to be positive, only to be frustrated when nothing changed? You woke up one day and said, "Today's going to be great," but by midday, you were already back to feeling stuck, unmotivated, and, well, disappointed. The problem isn't that you weren't positive enough, it's that you didn't change the way you talk to yourself on a deeper level. Let me explain. Positive thinking is the surface. Self-talk is the foundation. It's easy to slap a positive thought on top of years of negative beliefs, but if you haven't done the work to change the conversation happening in your mind, those positive thoughts won't stick. You'll always default back to your old ways of thinking: "I can't, I'm not good enough, this will never work for me." Here's the counterintuitive truth: you don't need to be endlessly positive to succeed. What you need is to talk to yourself in a way that acknowledges the challenges but focuses on solutions. Instead of forcing positivity, you need to start having a conversation with yourself that's realistic, empowering, and focused on action. For example, when you face a difficult situation, instead of saying, "Everything will be fine," which, let's face it, can feel hollow, say something like, "This is tough, but I'm capable of figuring it out." See the difference? One is wishful thinking, while the other is grounded in reality but still empowering. It's not about ignoring the hard stuff, it's about choosing to talk to yourself in a way that moves you forward, not keeps you stuck. Over the next 5 days, I want you to try something radical: stop chasing positive thinking and start focusing on powerful self-talk. Every time you catch yourself trying to force a positive thought, shift your focus to the internal dialogue. Ask yourself, how am I talking to myself right now? Am I being realistic? Am I focusing on solutions? This shift might feel unnatural at first, but it's incredibly effective. Because the truth is, you don't need to be blindly optimistic to succeed. What you need is a mindset that's resilient, adaptive, and honest with yourself. You need to start believing that you can handle whatever comes your way, not because you're hoping for the best, but because you're confident in your ability to find solutions. That's real power. That's the kind of self-talk that transforms lives. So forget about the pressure to always be positive. Instead, start focusing on having conversations with yourself that push you towards action. Tell yourself that you can handle the obstacles, that you're capable of learning, growing, and adapting. In 5 days, you'll begin to see the shift, not because you forced yourself to be positive, but because you started talking to yourself in a way that leads to real change. This is the truth they don't tell you: positive thinking without action is useless. But when you combine self-talk that drives action with a realistic mindset, that's when the magic happens. So stop chasing the illusion of positivity and start focusing on what really matters: how you speak to yourself when it matters most. Before continuing, I invite you to click on the first comment, it will help you a lot. Let's talk about something we all crave: results. We want them, and we want them fast, right? Well, here's the good news: in just 5 days, you can start seeing the rewards of changing how you talk to yourself. That's not an exaggeration, it's backed by psychology and the power of the human mind. You've probably been told that real change takes months or even years, but that's not always the case. The real secret is momentum. When you shift your self-talk, even slightly, it creates a ripple effect throughout your life. And the best part? You'll start noticing these changes almost immediately. Here's why. When you change the way you talk to yourself, you're not just thinking differently, you're acting differently. Your brain responds to the language you use, and it triggers a cascade of positive effects. You'll find yourself taking on challenges with more confidence, procrastinating less, and even feeling more energized. All of this happens faster than you think because your brain is constantly listening to how you speak to yourself. Imagine waking up just a few days from now and feeling a tangible difference. You'll approach your day with more determination. Tasks that once felt overwhelming will start to feel manageable, even exciting. Why? Because you've trained your brain to see opportunities instead of obstacles. Here's an example. Think about a time when you tried to motivate yourself by saying, "I have to do this." How did that feel? Probably heavy, right? Like a burden. Now, imagine switching that self-talk to something like, "I get to do this," or "I'm capable of handling this challenge." It seems like a small change, but it has a massive impact. Your brain goes from feeling pressured to feeling empowered. And when you feel empowered, guess what? You take action, and action leads to results. This isn't just about feeling better, it's about seeing tangible, fast rewards. After just a few days, you'll notice things happening that didn't happen before. Maybe you'll finish that project you've been putting off, or you'll tackle a conversation you've been avoiding with surprising confidence. The shift in your self-talk starts creating quick wins, and those quick wins fuel even more progress. We're talking about a snowball effect here. Once you start seeing the small results, your motivation skyrockets. You feel the progress, and that pushes you to keep going. And the best part? The effort you need to make this happen is so small. It's not about overhauling your entire life, it's about tweaking the internal conversation you have with yourself, just for 5 days. Picture this, you decide to commit to talking to yourself differently for the next 5 days. You wake up tomorrow and say, "I'm ready to handle whatever comes my way." You catch yourself mid-negative thought and replace it with something more empowering. By the end of the day, you feel more accomplished, more in control. By the end of the week, you've built momentum that starts changing the way you approach everything, your work, your relationships, even how you take care of yourself. This kind of shift doesn't just make you feel better mentally, it makes you more productive, more efficient, and more resilient. That's why you start seeing results so quickly. Your actions follow your thoughts, and when you change your thoughts, your actions, and your outcomes, change with them. It's not magic, and it's not some far-off dream. It's a process that starts working the moment you begin. 5 days is all it takes to notice a difference. 5 days to start rewiring your brain, to start breaking free from the habits and mindsets that have been holding you back. And here's the most rewarding part. Once you see those first signs of change, you'll realize how much more is possible. It's addictive in the best way. The better you feel, the more you want to keep going, and the faster you see even bigger results. It's like unlocking a part of yourself you didn't even know was there. So here's your challenge, talk to yourself differently for 5 days. Make those small shifts in your self-talk, and watch how quickly things start to change. The rewards are there, waiting for you. And they come faster than you think. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to have an unshakable belief in themselves, while others struggle with self-doubt their entire lives? What's their secret? Here's where it gets interesting. It's not about talent, intelligence, or even luck. The real game changer is something you might not expect, it's the way they talk to themselves. And in just 5 days, you can unlock that very same mindset. Curious yet? You should be. Because what if the key to unlocking the life you've always wanted is hidden in something as simple as your inner dialogue? You've heard it said before, thoughts become things. But here's where most people get it wrong. It's not just about thinking the right thoughts, it's about talking to yourself in a way that reshapes your reality. Imagine this, for years, you've been telling yourself the same story over and over again, whether you realize it or not. I'm not good enough, this is too hard, or I don't deserve success. But what if I told you that in just 5 days, you could start rewriting that story? And that small change could set off a domino effect, transforming not just how you feel, but what you achieve. Here's where the curiosity comes in. What would happen if you started treating yourself like someone you actually believed in? What if, for just 5 days, you replaced every self-doubt with a thought of self-empowerment? Would you finally break through that mental barrier that's been holding you back for years? Would you finally find the energy, the drive, the confidence to go after what you really want? What's fascinating is how quickly your brain starts to respond when you shift your internal dialogue. Neuroscience shows that the brain is incredibly adaptable, constantly rewiring itself based on how we think and speak to ourselves. So when you begin talking to yourself with positivity, belief, and encouragement, you're literally rewiring your brain to seek out success. Here's a thought experiment. What would you do if you weren't afraid to fail? How different would your decisions be if you truly believed in your own ability to succeed? Think about it. This isn't just motivational talk, this is about tapping into the psychological wiring of your brain. You see, the language we use with ourselves shapes our actions. When you constantly tell yourself, "I'm not ready," or "I can't do this," your brain believes you and shuts down any effort to try. But when you say, "I've got this," suddenly, your brain kicks into gear, finding solutions, pushing you forward. In just 5 days of practicing new self-talk, you could be well on your way to that mindset shift you've been craving. And here's the thing, it doesn't take months or years to see the difference. It's almost immediate. The first time you catch yourself about to say something negative and flip it into something positive, you'll feel it, a spark, a shift in your energy. It's subtle at first, but powerful. And here's the big question, are you curious enough to try it? What would happen if, for the next 5 days, you started asking yourself empowering questions? Instead of, "Why does this always happen to me?" you'd ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of, "I'm not good enough," you'd say, "I'm improving every day." This tiny change triggers a flood of new thoughts, new possibilities. You'll find